That's it. Lovely. So we are gonna go live, or we are live now, for a short pregnancy session, and I really wanted to offer some prenatal yoga because it is such an amazing practice to do when you're pregnant, and really powerful physically, mentally, emotionally, and it's one of those things that I have actually been doing. There have been quite a lot of scientific studies in as well. So not that we don't know that yoga is amazing, but there's the research to support it too. So we'll just wait a few moments to get started. And if you are here and you are ready, then just write me a message so I know you are here, and tell me how you're doing. If you're watching on the replay later on, you might watch this in 5 months' time, but make a little message anyway. As I said, put something in the comment. It's really nice to know who's been practicing with me. So so come and say hello. We will start sitting, so if you're joining us, or if you've been here for a little while, just come into a comfortable seat. And most likely, if you're sitting cross-legged, I will suggest you sit on something. So you sit on a few cushions, or you sit on a yoga block, or you sit on a yoga bolster. And we'll talk about why that is really, really important during pregnancy. So I'm going to just get a few cushions. Just to demonstrate. So you can sit on cushions, pillows, and then sit in a cross-legged position. And create space. So obviously if cross-legged doesn't work for you, you sit on your heels, you extend your legs. But maybe you just rest your hands on your babies, on your womb space. Maybe you close the eyes. And we are taking these first few moments to simply settle into this space. So just arriving onto your mat, finding yourself sitting comfortably. And you can sway, you can flow, you can move however it's comfortable in your body. And maybe as you rest your hands on your babies, on your womb space, when we make little movements, either if it's circular movements or rocking or swaying, when that comes from the pelvis and then expands out through the spine into the rest of the body, it is as if you're just creating space for your womb, and in pregnancy really creating that space for you and your babies. As if you're having a little dance with your baby, you're just kind of figuring out where you want to be, where your babies want to be. And again, if comfortable, just keeping the eyes closed and just taking a few more moments here to breathe. And you can allow the exhale to relax out through the mouth. So letting the exhale extend and lengthen. And feel that exhale as a way to release tension or stress or anxiety. The exhale is grounding, it's relaxing. We know that exhale is releasing when we sigh out. So releasing the out breath through the mouth. You can inhale through the mouth or nose, whichever way is comfortable. But imagine the exhale as that openness, releasing, grounding energy. So in Ayurveda we think of the exhale and that energy moving down and out is apana vayu. It's the prana that's associated with childbirth, but also elimination, urination, just being grounded, menstruation as well. So the exhale is that release and groundedness, and also really important, having that exhale, birthing, imagining that openness of the exhale as you birth your babies. Beautiful. So let's just rock forward and backwards a little bit more, shifting to the sacrum, shifting to the pubic bones. The sacrum, the pubic bones, I'm going to move a little bit further away so you can see what I'm doing if your eyes are open. Again, that rounding and coming forward. Rounding and coming forward. So again, you're just having that movement with the pelvis as if you are both finding space really from the tailbone to the pubic bone. You're feeling the sitting bones and you're rocking your babies and finding a little bit of fluidity. And so again, it's almost like you notice how the pelvis moves. Really nice. Let it come into circular movements. And we sometimes think of this as the pelvic mapping or pelvic outlet mapping. Circle the other way. You feel the sitting bone, the pubic bones, the sitting bone, the tailbone. And what I think is so fascinating is that the pelvic outlet is movable. As you shift to the sacrum, the tailbone and the pubic bone, the sitting bones move closer. So the pelvic outlet becomes quite small. And then as you shift forward and out to back, the tailbone lifts, the sitting bones spread apart. The pelvic outlets become bigger. So this is really important in childbirth because your position can determine how much space you have to birth your babies. So it's pretty incredible. So let's come back to the center. Bring one hand to your babies, one hand to the center of your heart. So connecting your womb space, your babies, and your heart center. Take a deep breath into both hands. Exhale it out. One more time, breathing in. And breathing out. Beautiful. So cross the legs the other way around. And I will just share a little bit about the pelvis. So this is a female pelvic model, and it's pretty much the shape that a regular female pelvis is. And obviously we have all the internal organs, which is inside the pelvis. This is the uterus and the vaginal canal. This is obviously not a pregnant uterus. But again, this is how it all fits perfectly into the pelvic ball. So here is the pelvic inlet. This is where your baby is going to move through, move around, and then come out through the pelvic outlet. So if we think of the bony structure, this is kind of from the front, like that. So pubic bones at the front. This is where we hold our hands on the hips. We put them here, like that. The sitting bones, that bony structure right underneath. So right down deep here. That's your sitting bones. They are here. Tailbone, we have the sacrum, the tailbone underneath. And again, the pubic bones right at the front. So this pelvis doesn't actually move. But you can see all of these are muscles. Muscles stretch, they contract. So when we arch the back, or we're on our hands and knees, we're in a squat, all of these muscles will stretch because the bone structure expands. So we have the sitting bones moving apart, the tailbone slightly relaxing. And so that's the tailbone there. When we sit down, so I was saying before, if you sit down but you round your back like this, which is quite often how we sit. When we sit in a chair, in a sofa, we kind of round the back. Well, in that case, you're actually sitting on the sacrum and your pelvic floor contracts a little bit, so it tightens, which is not helpful. It also creates quite a challenging position for your babies to come into an optimal fetal position. So especially later pregnancy, really forward-leaning poses, which is what we are going to do this morning to help that openness, so you're not pressing onto the sacrum. So you can think of your baby pressing onto the sacrum, how that might feel in your body. So sacroiliac joint pain, tailbone pain, lower back pain. So having a good posture in pregnancy is incredibly important for your own comfort, for your birth, for the best position for your babies, and for your postnatal recovery. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Just to give some perspective of how this actually moves. So sitting, slouching, you sit onto the sacrum, you're putting pressure on the sacroiliac joints, the tailbone, compression in the lower back, not a good position for your babies. Arching the back, obviously you don't want to put compression into your lumbar spine, but you also want to have that possibility to really open and stretch the pelvic floor. So let's move. So go ahead and come onto your hands and knees. Now you can have cushions or blankets underneath your knee, that's absolutely fine. So we can think here, as we round the back, the tailbone draws to the pubic bone, so that's that slouching movement. But we're going to do this and really spread between the shoulder blades, so stretch into the back and find length. And it is almost like you hug your babies towards you. Now this is going to be our inhale. As we exhale, we look forward. You're not collapsing, you're hugging your baby slightly in, but you lift your tailbone, you spread your sitting bones out, and you stretch your chest forward. That's going to be our exhale. Inhale, spread between the shoulder blades. Exhale, opening up. So again, hugging baby slightly in to support your lumbar spine. So just in your own rhythm. So being really quite active and structured still. And so today we use the exhale to lift the sitting bones, to spread the sitting bones, to lift the tailbone. Because that's the exhale of stretching the pelvic floor for the connection for exhaling when you birth your babies. Inhale, breathe in between the shoulder blades into the bottom of your lungs. Exhale, extend. Wonderful. So let's play a little bit more with that movement, and we'll step the left foot to the outside of the left hand. You can grab hold of the foot to step it forward, and then start to circle the hips now. So circling the pelvis. You can bring hands onto something a bit higher, so if you have a small stool or yoga blocks, go ahead. And here just let the body be creative, allow it to flow. And I wanted to share this movement because forward-leaning poses, we can imagine later stages of pregnancy that your baby can rest in the hammock of your abdomen, facing towards your spine, head down towards the pelvis. And it's almost as if you could imagine, as you move, that again you and your babies communicate on how is it a good position for you? How is it a good position for your babies? Wonderful. So let's come on to the hands and knees. We'll come into the rolling cats and taking the knees apart, sit to the heels. Again, that forward leaning movement. If it's a comfortable position here, you can feel the sitting bones opening up. So you're actually relaxing the pelvic floor again. We'll come forward, lift the elbows, lift your heart forward, round it, or arching the back a little bit. Then round the back to sit down. Then come forward again. Coming into this fluid movement. And then next time we're on our hands and knees, we will stay and take the right foot to the outside of the right hand. Again, you can step the foot forward, grab hold of your hands. And again, coming into these circular movements, and they might just be very little, rocking forward and backwards, or they come into the circular movements. And so what I wanted to share with this variation is that great for preparing for birth, but one reason this is wonderful during pregnancy as well is that you can use it during labor. You can flow, you can move, you can stretch, you can have this dance communication with your babies. If you have a birth ball, you could rest over your birth ball or over your chair, whatever it might be, over your partner, like that. And again, just those little movements, just finding space. This could be a movement where you would give birth, because potentially you can really stretch the sitting bones apart. You can find that openness with the tailbone, allowing that to rise. So there's so much potential. And again, we can work with gravity. So especially if you're a bit higher and birth is moving down, it all helps and support your work with gravity. Perfect. So let's come back to the hands and knees. This time we just take the circular movements back to the hands and knees. And this is just a nice variation just to work, find fluidity through the spine, through the hips, even up into the shoulders. And again, hands and knees can be that good positioning for your babies, and even a birth position. Really good. Now, so from here we will come up to standing, but we'll come through a squat. If you have pelvic pain, just stay here for a moment. Otherwise, tuck the toes under, walk your hands back, lift your knees, maybe hands together at your heart. Now, if there's any pelvic girdle pain, you don't want to do this. Everything has to be quite close together. So if that's you, you walk your hands back and come onto your forearm, or come into almost like a chair pose. So whatever variation you are in, you can again imagine that the tailbone relaxes, the sitting bones release. You don't want to sit here for a long time, especially if this is new to you. You come up as soon as feels right. But what I do want to emphasize is that you don't want to round the back, because then you close and contract the pelvic floor muscles again, or they tighten. You want the openness. That might mean that you have to put blocks or any other things underneath your heels so that you can find a bit more balance, or you hold on to your birth partner and you have support. So working with gravity, opening the pelvic floor, a squat is another potential birth position. Let's come up to standing. So wherever you are, press onto your thighs, slowly rise, turn your toes forward, bring one hand to your babies, one hand to your heart, and again just allowing fluidity, allowing the body to come into these more circular movements. You can soften the knees, just making little figure of eights, hip forward, hip rotates out to the side and back, the other hip comes forward out to the side and back. And you can almost come into this trance-like flow when you're like this. It can be a standing meditation. And how wonderful is that? Beautiful. So I want to focus a little bit more about that, on that potential for openness for the pelvis. We'll come into almost like a chair pose. So the forearms or the hands come onto the thighs. I'm going to show it hands on the thighs. But you could have the forearms if that feels comfortable. Now, just like on the hands and knees, we have this neutral spine to start with. We will again inhale, rounding the back. Look at the tailbone drawing down, and then you round the back. You can look to your babies. And then as we exhale, the sitting bones lift and spread apart, and then the heart extends. So really allow this movement coming from the pelvis, not your chin. We are going to work with the pelvic floor muscles as well. So we'll do this, the birth breath or the pregnancy breath, focusing on the exhale being that releasing breath. So as you look up and lift the sitting bones, that's the exhale. On your next inhale, tailbone draws down, you round the back, the hip can drop, that's the inhale, spreading the shoulder blades. Exhale, the sitting bones spread and lift up, and the heart lifts. So your own rhythm. And this might be enough. That might be all you want to do. Or you start to incorporate the pelvic floor. So that when you look up and exhale, the pelvic floor completely relaxes. But as you inhale, you engage the pelvic floor muscles and you look down. The exhale, you simply relax the pelvic floor. So this might be that you feel the whole of the pelvic floor engaging, or maybe you just focus on the vaginal canal. So the muscles between the sitting bones, between the pubic bones and the tailbone. So what we looked at the pelvic outlet on the pelvic model. And then come into a neutral position. Extend your arms all the way up towards the sky, straightening the legs and hands to the heart. Beautiful. So I just want to do another standing variation, a bit like what we just did. It's going to be active. It's not a birth position where this could be a birth position. Holding onto your birth partner, ropes on the wall, something that's very stable. This is a perfect birth position. Again, you can wriggle around, you can move the body. You are forward leaning, which is helpful. You can open the sitting bones. Gravity, we can use nature to support us. So gravity is a good way because both that Apana downwards and upwards. So chair pose, but holding on to someone. So if you're new to pregnancy yoga, we're going to work on those muscles to help you to be in this position. We'll come into chair pose. But what I want you to see is, when we inhale here, now we'll come into the physiological breath. The inhale, we arch the back a little bit, the sitting bones spread out. But as we exhale, we hug in towards our babies, the tailbone in a neutral position. We are not rounding the back, we just come back to neutral. We engage the pelvic floor muscles and we hug our babies. Not squeeze, squeeze, squeeze of the pelvic floor or the abdomen, but just that gentle support. Okay? So we'll try. So fingers, just a gentle hug, a gentle lift with the pelvic floor. The physiological breath engages when we exhale. So opposite from what we've just been doing. Ready? Inhale, arching the back. Exhale, hug it in. Inhale to arch. Exhale, coming back to the center. Again, you can really work with the pelvic floor, relaxing it as you look up and engaging as you draw the hands by the side. Let's inhale, come all the way to standing. Bring the hands to the heart. One hand to your heart, one hand to your womb. Again, just taking a moment to allow the body to move and to flow. Really nice. And so in a moment we will come back down to the floor again. And I'll give a couple of options again. So again, pregnancy yoga, feet might be hip distance apart or wider, so whatever is comfortable in your body. We'll bend the knees, forearms to the thighs. You will stay here if you have knee issues or any kind of pelvic girdle pain, pelvic floor issues, or you can turn the toes out and slowly lower down into a squat. We'll only stay for a few moments, but come into the habit of noticing if you are collapsing into the back and maybe you want to have some support underneath your heels. Everyone bring your hands down onto the hands and knees. And just take a few moments again just to come into these circular movements. Again, just imagining that you are creating space for your babies to come into the optimal fetal position, or in earlier stages of pregnancy, wherever your baby needs to be at this stage, or maybe just letting the body move. And so in a moment we'll come into a comfortable seat. You can walk your hands and your knees towards each other, sitting to the heels, maybe shift around, sitting cross-legged. Again, be really mindful if you are rounding the back. If your knees are high, that's a good indication as well that maybe sitting on a block or lots of cushions is useful, so you don't compress on the sacrum. So just finding your seat. And perhaps you rest your hands on your babies or on your lap. You can take a few moments to close the eyes. And so we do say that there's a connection with the pelvic musculature, especially the vaginal musculature, and the throat, but certainly the jaw and the pelvis have a very strong connection as well. Also for the fascia, there's a connection for the throat to the pelvis. So any tension in the jaw and in the throat will be reflected also in the pelvis, and opposite. So we'll just do a little, just a bit of breathing to allow that to release. So we'll exhale through the mouth. So just take a breath in through the nose and mouth. And exhale slowly through the lips. And again an inhale. And slowly through the lips. So it's almost like you have just a thin paper between the lips, and that's the space you exhale out from. And as you continue this breath, imagine you can follow the breath out into the space in front of you, and eventually it will just dissolve and a new in-breath will come in. And then the exhale, you follow it out through the mouth until it dissolves, and a new wave of breath. Maybe this exhale is just an awareness or sensation. Maybe it's a color or a texture. But notice how every exhale comes out into the room, eventually dissolves, and a new wave of breath comes in. And coming back to the natural, spontaneous breath, so allowing the body just to breathe. We will drop our left ear towards the left shoulder, so the shoulders are not moving, just the head releasing towards your left side. Making the head heavy, roll it forward towards your chest, keeping the chest bone in the same place, and then roll to the other side. And then back down again. So just rolling the head gently from side to side. And releasing any tension around the area of the throat. You can relax the jaw and the tongue. Really nice. And eventually the head will just rest near the chest, allowing the chest bone to rise towards your chin. And slowly look up. We'll extend the arms all the way out to the side and up above the head. And then bring the palms together, hands to the eyebrow center, your vision center, your imagination, the place you can visualize and focus. To your mouth and the throat area, from where you express yourself, to the center of your heart, the place of compassion and love and devotion, and down to the space of your womb, your babies, the space of creativity and expression. So let's do that 3 times more. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale down through the center line, third eye center, mouth, throat, heart, and babies. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale down through the center, grounding down, rooting down, releasing down. Inhaling that openness, lightness, protectiveness. And hands all the way down through the center. We'll just do that one more time. So with a very deep breath in. And exhale through the mouth. And you can keep your hands on your babies. And just take this moment to just honor your body, the time you've taken out to practice your breath, and honor your babies. So staying with one hand on your babies, one hand to your heart. Maybe just stay here in meditation. or if you wish to come out of the practice, and just bring your palms together. Namaste. Thank you so much for coming to our prenatal session, a pregnancy session. So you can stay meditating, maybe you are ready to move a bit more and you can continue to move. So that's it. So if you have questions, you can type in the comment boxes. You can write messages in the comment box as well. So even if you're watching on replay, if you watch later on, then just write in the comments, and obviously, hopefully I'll get notifications. I don't always, but hopefully I will, and I can answer you or give further resources. So so thank you so much. And if you wish to see more pregnancy yoga or more birth preparation or anything specific around pregnancy or postpartum, maybe, it might not even be specific yoga, it might be something different, then again just write it in the comment box. So thank you so much for watching. Namaste. Thank you.